That's enough rambling. Again, I'm super excited to introduce you guys to Noel Perry. Noel works at Mast Reforestation, which is a company that reforests post-wildfire. I actually get to work with Noel pretty much every single day with Redwood Climate Communications, the PR agency that I work with. So I could go on, but instead I'm going to let Noel share about Mast and his journey into climate. So you guys don't have to hear me ramble anymore. Noel, super excited to have you. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And we love to hear the ramble, so no worries there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, as Jessica mentioned, I'm with Mast Reforestation. I work with Jessica almost every day. Though the folks over there at Redwood are absolute all-stars, rock stars. So fun working with them. Um, and yeah, so I'm going to share my screen real quick. I put together a little deck to chat through everything. And I have my notes off to the side. So if you see me looking over there, that's why. This is my first time doing something like this. So please be gentle. But yep, my name is Noel. My pronouns are he, they. I'm a senior specialist of marketing and communications at Mast Reforestation. Thanks for College to Climate for having me. What you guys have is super unique and creative and fun. And I'm super glad to be a part of it. And ahead of this, I'd love for this to be, part of like a conversation. If you have questions throughout, please drop a note in the comments. I kind of need to figure out how I can see my comments. But oh, I got it. If you have comments or questions, throw them in. I'm happy to try to answer them as best as I can. I'm hope I don't ramble on too much. Try to get through this relatively succinctly. But anyways, yes. So what we're going to be chatting about a little bit today is Mast Reforestation. Who are we and why do we exist? And what role do we play in sustainability? My journey into the climate space, where I went to college, a little bit of Amazonian work, and then here at Mast Reforestation. And then my current role, doing public relations, marketing, and events, and doing that all alongside with Jessica. Before we get started, I'm curious to know what you guys are studying. Are there any, PR folks out there, any marketing folks, software engineering? Throw it in the chat. I'd love to know, kind of gauge what folks are learning about or focusing on. If you are, um, all of that. Yeah, cool, nice. Business concentration, sustainability engineering, ECE, robotics. I don't know what ECE is, but super cool. Would love to hear more about that. Stats, nice. Yeah, and the thing about climate, we need everyone and anyone, folks in HR, folks in finance. You all know this. That's why you're here. And yeah, and then one other question: who is aware of or knows about the carbon market? I'm going to be talking about that a little bit later today. It's pretty important to what we do here at Mast. And it kind of allows us to do what we do. Cool, nice. But yeah, if you have questions, throw them in. So at Mast Reforestation, our slogan is restoration for resilience. So who we are, why do we exist, and what makes us unique. So as you're probably aware, wildfires are getting worse and they're getting more intense. Folks on the West Coast sure know it. Most every year we're socked in with smoke. Last year, folks in New York got socked in with Canadian wildfire smoke. It's just a problem that's getting worse and worse. Back in the 90s, roughly about 2.5 million acres burned per year. And usually when, back in the day when fire would go through a landscape, it'd be low severity and, that would open up seed or pine cones to drop their seed and forests would regrow and regenerate. But, today due to climate change, about 7.5 million acres are burning every year in North America, and that's about the size of New Jersey. So New Jersey is burning every single year in the United States, contiguous US, which sucks. So we are in the space of reforesting those acres to close that reforestation debt. Pretty much is where we're at. So how do you do that? You need to collect seed. You need to grow the seed. You need to put it out onto site. But most importantly, you need to be able to finance it all. And that's really hard because reforestation is really expensive. And all of these have bottlenecks to them. So before I started working at Drone Seed, I didn't know that we have a seed shortage. So conifer cones or conifer trees, you don't really grow them in orchards unless they're for timber companies. You need to collect wild seed to regrow those forests. And you want to collect diverse native seed to regrow those forests. So we have become a vertically integrated company, which means that we go out and we collect the seed, we find the seed, and we collect the seed. We then bring that seed back to our nurseries where we extract the seed from the cone and preserve it in these big giant freezers. They could survive in there for decades, 100 years plus. We produce the seedlings, so we got that seed, we sow it, we grow it. We work with landowners who need reforestation, and we create reforestation prescriptions, which means we choose what trees go out there, what species. We plant a polyculture, which means several different kinds of species, which is great for biodiversity and also future wildfire suppression. We plant the seedlings, and then through the growth of those seedlings, we sell carbon credits to organizations trying to meet their carbon goals or their sustainability goals. And those credits then go to us and the landowner. So in order to become vertically integrated, we needed to buy some places. We originally started as Drone Seed, which I'll talk about later, but we acquired Silvaseed in 2021, and we acquired California Nurseries, which is in California, in 2022, because we needed the seed supply and the seedlings and the place to grow the seedlings. So we built software, and we tripled the seed supply for reforestation about 3 times, which is, it's just surprising that there isn't a lot of seed collected out in the world, especially with ramping up forest fires. And now we manage over 75% of the forest seed for reforestation. And we grow more than 90% of California's trees. And we work with a lot of different folks. We work with timber agencies, and then we also work with public agencies like Cal Fire. Last year, we worked with them to go collect seed down in California, collected like 10,000 bushels of ponderosa pine. And then we also work with tribal nations and other nonprofits. And then, so when it comes to the carbon market, carbon removal credits, for folks who don't know, and I hope I'm not like mansplaining here, but carbon offsets are used to compensate landowners as well as ourselves for the reforestation. And organizations buy these carbon credits to meet their voluntary carbon commitments. North America works in the voluntary carbon market. Over in Europe, they have the compliance market. So companies are required to purchase carbon credits. Here it's the Wild West, and it's more like, Microsoft wants to show off that they're working in sustainability. And other companies don't need to do that or don't care. But there's a lot of companies who do, which is good because those carbon offsets generate revenue that go to the landowner. So basically, they get free trees, and we're able to do it through the contributions of these companies. And there's a few reasons why companies purchase these offsets. So like for Microsoft and Apple, it's because they want to recruit their talent, or they want to tell their consumers, which is me and you, like, hey, we're, our production plants are all sustainable energy. And that makes us want to buy it more. There's also like point of sale. So like Shopify, they help businesses sell their products, and they'll buy like our carbon credits and say, hey, when people buy stuff from you, um, your shipping is going to be offset by these forests that we're growing. And carbon markets are like controversial. There's greenwashing. It's very important to talk about. I'm a very open book when it comes to carbon markets. I think there are flaws with it, but it's also a great way to get capital into a space that otherwise doesn't really have much money. And then, there's oil and gas, and we know why they want to buy carbon offsets because all they do is produce carbon. Um, so there's a few different carbon removal solutions. There's like over 170 different carbon removal solutions. There's things that are biological, so nature-based solutions. That's where we live. We live in the reforestation at the top here, afforestation, reforestation. There's also called IFM, Improved Forest Management. That is basically going out and thinning forests. And when you do that, it's less prone to, catch on fire, create massive wildfires. And then there's soil carbon, and soil actually sequesters a huge majority of the carbon in our atmosphere. And then there's blue carbon, which is like kelp farms, things in the ocean. And those sequester, and like the ocean sequesters the most carbon out of reforestation, all the other ones kind of combined. Um, there's hybrids. So there's biochar, which is, and many of you might know this already, many might not. So I'm saying it to the folks who don't. Biochar is basically turning woody biomass, so like let's say dead trees, for example, and turning it into charcoal through I forget what the process is exactly, pyrolysis or something like that. Basically, it superheats it, turns it into charcoal, and then that is either put onto like agricultural landscapes or stored in the ground. And then there's BECCS, bioenergy with carbon capture and storage. Basically, like you grow plants, they sequester carbon as they grow, you burn them to create energy, but then you capture that CO2 as soon as it's combusted and put that in deep into the ground. And when you do that, it's basically negative emissions because while it grew, it sequestered carbon, and you're putting it into the ground forever. And then you got the engineered, which is enhanced weathering. There's a few different kinds of them. So it's where you like crush up rocks and put it all over like an agricultural field or on beaches. And these rocks are like basalt. And through some chemical process that I'm no scientist, I'm in PR and marketing, it like turns that carbon into a solid state that then washes into the ocean where it's stored forever. And then there's direct air carbon capture, which is just giant fans sucking in carbon, turning it into basically a rock. And the engineered approaches are very sound scientifically because once you get the carbon and put it underground, it's like it's not going to like go away. But they require a lot of energy to do, and they're not super fast. But that to say, we need everything. We need all different kinds of carbon removal solutions because as companies decarbonize, there's still going to be the same amount of carbon out in the world that we need to, like if all the companies stopped emitting today, we all stopped emitting carbon today, all that carbon is still in the world that we need to remove from the atmosphere. So we over at Mast are trying to mitigate the worst effects of climate change. So here's a little case study about one of our projects in Montana. The landowner Don, his property, his 3,000 acre property, burned in 2021. He has 5,000 acres. We're reforesting 3,000 of it. And he uses his property for a revenue source. He has people hunt on it. He has, people camp on it. So it was a big loss to him and his family. And he had a very strong urge to reforest that for him and his family. It's more of it's a legacy thing, as well as preserve the biodiversity, and have it a place where his kids and his grandkids could, you know, grow and, create memories. But he didn't have the money to do it because reforesting an acre of land costs thousands of dollars. But through the help of Mast, we were able to help him. So without us, he would have only been able to reforest like 110 acres. He had to get donations and grants from his state of Montana. He had to lobby to get seed for the state, which turns out they didn't have any seed banked in Montana for his land. So he couldn't reforest with native seed that's close to his property, which is not great. And it's going to get hotter and drier in the future. You want the forest to be as acclimated to that area as possible. And then he would have to like find where to grow grow the seedlings in nurseries, and then like organize how to like get them planted. But with us, we were able to, we went out and found cone, we found seed, we collected that seed, we processed the cone, got the seed, we supplied the greenhouse spaces, grew the seed, we managed the site prep, and we planted it all. And we were able to, we're coming up on confirmation for carbon credits. So all under one roof, we were able to get this reforestation started in weeks rather than years. It could have taken Dawn to get this done. So now pivoting into my climate journey. So kind of talk about where I went to college, how I got up to Seattle, and then how I got into Mast. It's a little bit of determination and a little bit of luck. So back in 2018, I graduated from the University of San Francisco, and got a bachelor's in business management. And I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't know what career I wanted to go into. Nothing was calling me. And that persisted until 2021. For 22 years of my life, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And that's okay. A lot of people don't know what to do. I still kind of don't know what I want to do for the next 20 years of my life. We're always trying to figure that out, I think. And that's okay. I went to go work for a port reporting company from 2018 to 2019, which kind of sucked because it's just a bunch of lawyers arguing with each other all day, and it's just bad energy and bad vibes. So I was like, nope, don't want to do that. So I moved up to Seattle. A bunch of friends, I knew a bunch of people up here. They had a room open up, and they're like, hey, do you want to come? I was like, all right, sure. I didn't have a job. I just wanted to hang out. So I eventually ran out of money. So I needed to find a job. So a way to get quick money is to drive for Amazon. So I drove for Amazon for a year. And it had its pros and cons. Pros, I got to explore a whole lot of Seattle and its suburbs. I got a lot of exercise. I think I burned like 3,000 calories a day. And I got a lot of sunlight. So that was nice. Cons, I delivered a bunch of garbage to people for the most part. I mean, a lot of people, it just like I saw the consumerism of like suburban America, which is a lot. And it was during COVID. So like I was delivering essential supplies for people as well. But I delivered over 50,000 packages over the course of a year. So delivered like 300 packages a day. And I was driving a van around all day, and I was like, I got to do something that isn't this. And I got to do something to get back to the environment and, The fires are really bad. All my friends here were um, in the environmental sciences at University of Washington, so they all were very much in sustainability. So they gave me a lot of inspiration. And here's where the luck comes in. So my friend emailed me and was like, "Hey, there's this company called Drone Seed. You should check it out." Mark, like Mr. Beast did a YouTube video on it. And I was like, "Okay, sure." So I looked it up and I was like, "This is really cool." I was into drones at the time. And I was like, "Okay, where's their headquarters?" And their headquarters were 10 minutes from my house, coincidentally. So I looked up their website and they had a manufacturing role. This was back when they were drone seed. So they were dropping seed pucks on the landscape um, for reforestation. We have since pivoted from that. We don't use drones anymore. But let's see, where was I? Oh, yeah. So they had a manufacturing department that had seed that basically they drilled holes into these like pucks made out of cocoa core and put the seeds in them, covered them, put them in boxes, and shipped them out to the drones. So I was on that production line, and basically, what I knew what I had to do, I wanted to utilize my degree in some fashion. I just need to get my foot in the door somewhere. I didn't have any experience in sustainability or environmental field. I didn't really have any experience in PR and marketing. But I was like, if I can get in somewhere, I can then work my way up or around. And talk to the people within the organization to see like what could happen, what's available, work with my managers to see what what trajectory there would be. And I was on a 90-day contract, and that contract was up. But instead of letting us all go, they opened up all these roles in different departments. And one was in the marketing and communications department. And I wanted to utilize my degree. And so I went and I interviewed for it, and that's how I got it. So, when I said determination and luck, like I didn't have a background in environmentalism or sustainability. I really wish I did. I feel like I'd be a lot further than I am right now. So I think you guys have like a huge head start, which is fantastic. But you just gotta like just get in there, and once you get in, just try really, really hard and work really, really hard, um, and show your worth and your value. I think that's really like how you continue working in this space or any space really. So anyways, that's how I got to Mast. Kind of a whirlwind, but I got there. So a little bit about what I do now. So I've been here for a little over 3 years now. Started manufacturing, worked as marketing and communication, got promoted, doing pretty much the same thing, but title increase. So you can see here, embracing the chaos. It's crazy every day. I mean, working in a startup, there's always something new popping up. There's a new story to chase. There's really cool stuff happening in the bio R&D department that you might not know about until you like go down to the nursery and you're like, oh, we got to talk about this. So there's a lot of that, and it's very fast. So if you end up at a startup, just know it's going to be fast, and you got to go, go, go. And if you chase it, you can get far as a company. So many of you might already know this. There's three kinds of media. There's owned, there's paid, and there's earned. Owned media, you have high control, but you have low reach. So this is like your social media, your website, your blogs, your content. Your paid media, which is high control, medium reach. This is print, magazines, digital, and then your event sponsorships. And then earned, this is low control, but super high reach. This is publications like NBC or CBS. This is conference speaking slots. This is podcasts. So for public relations, that's one part of my job. And I get to talk to Jessica every single day over Slack. And me on my end, what I do is I make sure that we have, logistic timing, like people who are ready to talk to them. And I help support the coordination and preparation of our spokespeople alongside with Redwood. Um, and then let's see, where am I on here? Yeah, so there's different types of publications. There's news publications, there's podcasts, and there's television. Television, there's Fox, CBS, NBC. We have a lot of local interest in Seattle because of our nursery down in down in Roy, Washington. A lot of people don't know that it exists. We've kind of got that word out a lot more. And it's a feel-good story. I feel like a lot of what we're talking about is feel good when there's a lot of doom and gloom out in the media. And that's what I think a lot of reporters like about Mast is that, oh man, I get to talk about trees growing rather than trees burning. Great. And then there's top tier series. There's like PBS, which is great, high reach. And then there's Netflix, which we haven't worked with yet. I really want to. And then there's like industry series. So Salesforce reached out to us and they're like, hey, we'd like to come out and check out your drones, see your project, talk about the reforestation you're doing. And so we had to plan logistically a 2-day media tour of our nursery down in Roy, Washington, and our project site. And we had to coordinate with the owners of the project site when we could come out. And we had to do interview prep with the owners and interview prep with everyone at the nursery, and then interview prep with everyone like in the exec team. So that was a lot of preparation, and all of these take a lot of preparation. And then there's also investor communications. So Mast is venture capital backed as a startup. So they want to know what's going on. So we need to tell them, quarterly updates. We need to get them project announcements, and we want to tell them about like our funding announcements. And like, it's really important if you are working at a startup that is venture capital backed, like you want them in the loop as much as possible because they can get your message out because they have a huge network on like LinkedIn, or they can forward it to like tons of people. So if you have like news, you want to let your partners know like what's going on because they can also spread that news. It's not just you talking to reporters. There's a lot of like side external communications you can do. So for just a little like insight into like what our goals were for 2024, we wanted to get 12 like pieces of news, 5 national, so like the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, six local. Local is a lot easier to get, obviously. We wanted to get a podcast. We wanted to win 2 top tier awards and 1 industry award, and we wanted to get speaking at 3 top tier like biz tech climate conferences. I forget what we did last year because I'm still putting those numbers together, but I think we got most of those. And then like here's just a view of like 2023. It's very similar. So in 2024 we bumped it up because we're like, all right, we did that. Let's try to get more. But I will say, when it comes to media and PR, like you can set all the metrics you want. If you don't have anything to talk about, if you don't have news, then it's going to be really hard to hit those. If you're not like creating something new or when you're like at conferences, if you don't have something that's to talk about that's maybe like controversial or like nobody's talking about this right now, then you won't get those pieces. So it's important when you're thinking about what are my goals for next year, thinking about what's coming up, how can I turn that into news, even if it's not news, how can I make that into news? And that's difficult sometimes. But you'll find angles. You just have to like see, you have to look at it from different perspectives. All right, we're at 5:35. got a little bit left. So a little, this is kind of like a case study when we rebranded from drone seed into Mast, which is no small feat. This was 2 months after I started in the PR and marketing role. So kind of thrown into the flames. There are a lot of internal communications, so you want to keep your internal team ready to like when we're fine, when like let them know when we're officially going to launch the new name, make sure that they have all of the new branding documents, keep them updated via email and Slack. I also had to coordinate our entire like Google Suite transition from drone seed into Mast and make sure everyone starts using the Mast email. That was a problem for a little bit. Everyone kept using drone seed, and I was like, hey, we're not drone seed anymore. We're Mast. And then there's external communication. So once we switched brands, we needed to let people know. So we had investor emails, we had investors promote that. We reached out to local media and also national media, and we also had our own social media. So we had like two earned, and then or one earned, and then two owned media. And what we did, because like rebranding is like cool, you're rebranding, like Facebook turned into Meta, because they're Facebook, they're already so big that they can just change their name and people will be like, what are you doing? But for us, drone seed into Mast, like we're such a small company that it doesn't really like raise a lot of eyebrows. Like, okay, cool, you changed your name. So what? Well, we had a whole like pivot in our company. We were like, okay, we can't use the drones anymore because we didn't have enough seed, and seed is really limited. So we can't waste seed with that. So we transitioned to Mast. And we also acquired Cal Forest at this time. So we tied the rebrand to Cal Forest acquisition. And that's what reporters wanted. Oh, why is this company buying up nurseries along the West Coast? What are they doing with that? So that's kind of how we like drew in reporters, and we got a lot of buzz. So NBC did a report on, or did a piece on us, and she also published to her Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it now. GreenBiz reported on us. Carbon Herald, which is an industry outlet. Puget Sound Business Journal. Geekwire. CTVC. Climate Tech Venture Capitalist. Big in the VC world. It's kind of like a newsletter that they send out via email. And then, like I mentioned, we got the news out to our investors before we got the news out to anyone else. So we're like, hey, this information's coming out soon. We want you guys to talk about it as soon as it does. So Alexis Ohanian, the co-founder of Reddit, he posted about it. We had Mark Terpening, who's big in the VC world at Spiro Ventures. He posted. Elemental Accelerator. If you guys want to look for companies that you might want to work at, look at Elemental Accelerator's portfolio of companies. Really cool companies working that they fund. And then more Elemental Accelerator, and then more investor activity, just a bunch of investor activity. So overall, we got 6 pieces of coverage. Oh yes, Elemental Impact. Thank you, Jessica. 6 pieces of coverage. You know, we potentially reach 62 million people. Who knows if that's true or not? Probably not. And we estimate like 211,000 views, which is like pretty good. And through our social media, like we blew up that week, like by a lot. And that was because of all the investor engagement, our partners resharing, our like the employees resharing, friends of employees resharing. Once that network starts to get bigger and bigger, then you get more reshares, more engagement. Videos are also really big on LinkedIn right now. And then commenting on people who are like, hey, why are you guys in the carbon market? This is greenwashing. It's really bad. And you have a conversation with them. And through that conversation, you get more engagement, more eyes, and you talk to people. LinkedIn, I think this is Twitter, but LinkedIn is a social network. A lot of people might not think it is. So lots of commenting is really important. Something that we could be better at. We don't comment enough. And then investor communications, here's our like, hey, big news tomorrow. Check out what we're going to be talking about. And then here's the news. Go repost it, go reshare it, let your network know. Little quick tip, like HubSpot and other email mass email senders, Apple changed their privacy policy. So when you send them an email, it won't show that it actually opened. So like it'll say open rate 50%. It's probably closer to 99 because these are our investors and they want to look at it, which is really annoying. Thanks, Apple. So another thing we do is marketing, or I do is marketing. So we have a blog, and so do copywriting for the blog. We have newsletters, do copywriting for the newsletters with my team. I have recently done a lot more of event organization and participation. So finding industry events, trying to figure out how we can get our people to speak at them, and then promoting our brand there. And then social media is campaigns and announcements. So I personally don't really like social media, but don't tell my boss. Events and awards. I love events and awards. So it's really important to like find all the top tier events and awards, put them into a database and keep that database really handy. Look at it every single day. You want to figure out who's going to these events. Why are these events important? Are they respected? Are the awards respected? Can we speak on stage? Like, will attending these events move the needle for you as a company? Are you going to talk to buyers? Are you going to get in front of buyers? Are you going to spend $15,000 and not get any leads? So you need to ask yourself questions of like, is this going to help us in the long run rather than just like brand recognition? And then you need to make sure you attend and reply and make sure you submit your awards on time. They run up on you really quick if you don't. So we attended 44 events in 2023 and we targeted 59 events in 2024. I feel like that's really high, but in the forestry world, you need to attend forestry events, science-based events. I know we're kind of running out low on time. Oh, here's a picture of a cat because that was a lot of information. It's my friend's cat, Miko, and she's super cute. So here's some resources that I want to share with you guys. This is a really great graphic of kind of the who's who in the sustainability space, in the carbon space in particular. You have like registries where people like us, our company puts our carbon credits on their registries. So Silvera, Puro, it's really big. There's media and press. There's technology providers. So Climeworks is really big in DAC, direct air carbon capture. And then you got the buyers, and then all these fun little startups. I recommend checking them out. They're all doing really cool stuff. A lot of science that I don't understand, but I'm really glad that they're doing it. And then I mentioned 170 types of carbon credits. Here's just like a handful of them, different kinds. If you want to look into like, reforestation is just one of them. So there's blue carbon, right? That's oceans. Like cook stoves is really popular right now. As well as what else is on here? Grasslands and rangelands management. Basically like moving your cows around your property in an efficient way to where the grass doesn't grow tall enough to just like waste their carbon being eaten. It's like stored in the roots. Anyways, there's a lot of little like niche different ones to look into. And finally, here are my favorite newsletters. I get these every single day. Honestly, I think I'm subscribed to too many. Um, Axios gives you kind of like you can get information on climate, or you can get information on like finance policy. You can get local ones like there's Axios Seattle, which is like local to Seattle news. Heat map, climate, energy, and sustainability. CDVC, that's like startups, venture capitalists. Climate base, it's a great job board. My World's on Fire, it's all about disasters. It's very real and it's super depressing, but it's great information. Carbon Focused, Carbon Brief is very focused on carbon reporting and stories, like news stories about companies in the carbon space. MSCI, just another carbon reporting company. Click subscribe at the top. And then Carbon Business Council, it's all about carbon policy. Um, I'll share this deck with Jessica to share with you guys all as well. So you can click on these links. And then PR and marketing, Muckrack Daily is really great for general news. And they break down like the news stories, short, sweet. SEO FOMO is great for SEO news. And then Marketing Brew is like marketing trends. And just for a fun one, personal finance, Money with Katie. She has a lot of great information in there. But yeah, so that's enough of me talking. I hope I didn't bore you guys. Feel free to connect, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Happy to be um, happy to link up for a coffee or chat over Zoom or anything in between. Like I'm here and thank you. Yeah. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. Um, yeah.
Can we get a Zoom hand for Noel? And then, yeah, anybody who wants to ask a question, feel free to just come off mute. Or again, if you want to drop it in the chat, that's fine. We can read it out for you. Um, no need to really raise your hand, but if you'd like to, you can do that too.
I had some questions, but mainly first of all, thanks Noel for coming and giving us this time.
Totally.
Yeah, and thanks to the C2C team for arranging the whole thing. Um, but yeah, I have a bunch of small questions. The first thing is basically how do you feel? How many events do you have to attend?
Me personally,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
like
How
the
do you feel
company?
like going to to dozens and dozens of events?
Yeah. So I personally don't go to a lot of events. Since we're a startup, we have a pretty small budget, pretty tight budget, which means that we can only send like our sales team to them because we need to talk to the carbon buyers, and I'm not the person to talk to like the Microsoft, like the head of sustainability at Microsoft. Unfortunately, I'd love to. But so I attend probably like 3 to 4 conferences a year. Usually the pretty big ones, like there's climate weeks. So like San Francisco has a climate week, New York has a climate week. I'm from San Francisco, so I'll likely go to the San Francisco Climate Week. There's a PNW Climate Week, which is here in Seattle, and other like very large industry events where we're have a big impact. And what I mean by that is, so we attended Verge this past year, where we had a very large space to design. And I was on the designing team for putting that together. And we rented potted trees. So I had to coordinate on site, like those trees arriving. And then I had to go buy like 20 ferns and then bring them in. So I mostly go for like setting up and managing like our booth spaces as on our marketing team.
And
So I wish I was attending. Well, actually, I don't wish I was attending 40 conferences, but
that's what I'm thinking. But
yeah.
out of curiosity, do you guys, on a daily basis, do you guys work remotely or in person?
So I work hybrid.
Okay.
So I go in maybe 3 times a week. Um, and a lot of our team works remotely. I mean, we have people in Idaho, down in California, Rhode Island, Canada, Toronto. So we are very kind of all over the map. But I work hybrid, so I go in every once in a
Okay,
while.
thanks.
Absolutely.
I have like two or three
Yeah,
questions, but if anybody else wants to jump in,
Yeah,
please.
thanks so much. We have two in the chat, so I definitely want to get to them. How do you market your skills in the climate tech startup world, especially as a non-technical person with no climate experience? Any thoughts on that one?
that's a great question. Let me read it one more time. Your skills in the climate tech startup world. Um, I market them primarily by talking about what I've done in the past. I think um, like what you like actionable. How do I want to put it this? Showing your value, I guess, is how I show my. Um, I guess I have a hard time understanding the question. How do you market
It's
your
a
skill?
question in terms of like being a generalist. Like I think that it's like that's the big
Mm,
question in being a generalist, and I definitely relate as well. Just have like sharing similar work, but also like working across different sectors, right? Like it's how do you, bring relevance to sustainability when maybe you don't have. So like for example, maybe just
sure. Yeah.
did you interview with Mast? Like was that a challenge for you, like not having had experience with sustainability or like
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think what's nice about the climate space and at least in marketing and PR is that the skills are very transferable from industry to industry. Um, because we are in like the storytelling business. So being able to succinctly tell a narrative of like how you got where you're going or how I got where I'm going. Um, and yeah, I wish I had a better answer. I'm,
did you have like a project that you shared or showcased? That's something that we talk a lot about at College to Climate is like the importance of either a portfolio or like something to point to. It's okay if the answer is no, but that's something that like we talk about a lot.
yeah. When I started at Mast, I didn't have a portfolio, so I didn't. What did happen was when I was in the PR role originally, I pretty much had a probation period of like 3 months to like prove myself. And pretty much by doing, I did, um, getting my hands in the weeds of, you know, emailing investors. I had never done that. I don't know why they gave me the opportunity to do so, um, but they did. So um, I think more to the point, I was game to do what they asked me to do, and I learned along the way, and that's how I learned my skills. I went to college and I learned them, but I didn't really utilize them until I was at Mast. So yeah, I wish I had a better answer, but I didn't have a lot of skills to transfer over. I just learned along the way.
Do you think they also
So
appreciate like your connection to their mission? Do you think that was like helpful at all in landing your role?
yeah, I mean, that was a huge part of the application process or going through yeah. So one of the tenets of MAST is being mission critical to mitigate the worst effects of climate change. So if you didn't show that you really cared about the environment or sustainability, you kind of like I've been in interviews with other people trying to join this company, and you can kind of tell when they don't really care all that much, or they're looking to transition, but they're kind of more in it for the accolade rather than like they care. So yeah, that was really important. Showing that you care is really important. Like you guys, it sounds like you guys have portfolios and you have past experience, which is like if I had that, I think I would have wouldn't have had the probationary period. But yeah, showing that you really care is huge.
Yeah, so leverage College of Climate, flex this on your resume wherever you
Yeah.
can. Well, I think we have time for definitely one, maybe two more questions. But I saw one that was from Anna. What's your favorite part of your job?
My coworkers, they're all really, really smart. Talking to them, learning from them. I don't think I like it was really hard working in this industry because there's a lot of doom and gloom. And it's hard to keep like going sometimes when you're like, ah, man, Russia just invaded Ukraine. Look at all those emissions. That's not fun. Like, and then you talk to my coworkers, and I'm like, oh, you guys have a really insightful commentary to this whole situation, and learning from them. I think that's my favorite part of the job. I've learned so much from my coworkers. Yeah.
Of that. I think we tend to echo that a lot at College of Climate too, is like the people you get to work with in climate is just generally higher quality. Like I don't know how else to put it. Like it's just a good time over here. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, they're real for
definitely
sure.
the earth is definitely the way to describe it. Any other questions, guys? This is your chance. Noel is like an open book, as he said. We only have a few more minutes, so I want to make sure that you guys, if there's a question in the back of your mind and you don't know if you're going to say it and you aren't sure, again, feel free to put it in the chat if you want us to read it for you or just come off mute.
Speaking of the doom and gloom, it might be a good question to conclude with. What do you feel about the trajectory of the climate industry? Will we be able to save the world or not?
Um, Long term, yes. Um, I think that there's a lot of really smart people working on the issue. And I think that's motivating. I think more people need to be aware of climate change to seriously mitigate its impact. I unfortunately believe that a lot of people are either ignorant or uneducated about the impacts of climate change, which is like no fault to them unless they're ignorant. But I think that the more people we can get on board with climate action, um, like the more mitigation will occur. Like, unfortunately, I think we're already at like reaching the 2-degree mark. So we need to really begin reducing, decarbonizing industries as quickly as possible while removing carbon from the atmosphere. And I think as this market continues to grow and build and get bigger, and I think the young people in the world are really a lot more knowledgeable of um, the what's happening. Um, I do I do see a spark of hope out there, um, and I keep trying to hold on to it every day. And yeah, so I think surrounding yourself around people who hope and dream is inspiring and keeps you out from thinking that the world's going to end. Because it's really easy to be like, oh, the world's ending. I'll go make a bunch of money somewhere. You can also make money in climate, but um, yeah, yeah, being around, surround yourself with people who care. Um, so short answer is yes. I think we can solve this problem.
And long answer is we need to do a lot in order to solve it.
Yeah. It's not going to be handed to us. I mean, just looking at like the current administration and what they're doing, like we have to fight for it. Like it's not just going to happen. Need to keep pushing for that change and educating people about that change. And coming at it from a point of like empathy too. It's really easy to like be like, oh, like if somebody's like climate change isn't real, or they might not be looking at it from your worldview. So kind of empathize with them and like have a discussion with them, rather than like putting people down. It's hard to do. They're like, get with the program, but that, yeah, you got to come to it with compassion.
Spoken like a true communicator. Definitely all we do all day long is think about our audience and like how they're going to respond to things.
Yeah.
Accurate. Yeah, I don't want to cut us off if there are more questions, but Noel, I don't know if you have a couple more minutes to hang back or if
Yeah, I got a little more time if
anybody
anyone has
else,
more.
any last questions? Maybe someone who hasn't asked a question yet. If
And thanks for Corey for like summarizing all those. I feel like I was so like,
Yeah, it's a such a tough question. I am curious, like, no, like, I don't know. Do you think about that a lot of like I don't know, you can use the political frames if you want, or you can say you intentionally don't use the political frames, and that would be a helpful answer. But like when you're talking about mass, do you like, tailor to different audiences and like for different political tilts or like for different things or try to find a middle ground? Like, how do you think about that with such a
that's
company?
a yeah, that's a good question. And we kind of get that a lot where it's like, short answer is no. I don't think about political lines when it comes to talking about reforestation, um, specifically because both conservatives and liberals like environmental protections.
Yeah.
Like it seems like that they don't, or conservatives don't, but a lot of our projects are in red states. Um, and a lot of carbon sequestration companies are working in red states because it creates jobs, and it brings in money. And they also love trees and the environment. Um, but so it comes down more to like why, yeah, sort of, yeah. So I don't try to split it between party lines when I'm talking to people about Mast specifically. Um, yeah, when it comes to climate, it's a little bit of a different issue. But,
Yeah.
going to be interesting just to see, I guess, with the new administration, how the carbon market and just carbon in generally is
mhm,
spoken about and like what trends we're going to see. It's a little bit
mhm,
unpredictable and like carbon in general, it's like not the brightest of its days, I'd say, but like at the same time it is like there's way higher quality credits available. That's expected to change with the new
mhm,
administration. Like we're expecting to see the market expand. Probably not for the best reasons because quality might go down, but that's why I think these conversations in general, like we talk about all the time, are so important, are talking about the ways that finance is, actually fueling projects that are beneficial, that do remove carbon, that, have like rigorous, high quality.
yeah, yeah. When it comes to that, when it comes to like greenwashing, that might be a little tangent, but when it comes to greenwashing, like people are like, well, Microsoft is putting all this money when they're still producing carbon. It's like, well, A, they're trying to decarbonize. So that needs to happen first. And B, we'll take Microsoft's money. The people in the sustainability field
Yeah.
will take these multi-million, billion-dollar companies' money, like just because it seems like they're doing it for marketing, like whether or not that's the case on their end, like we need the money to do sustainability action. Um, and without that money, it's really hard to do anything. I wouldn't have a job, and we wouldn't be sequestering carbon. So yeah, and
Is it a different line if it's oil and gas money as opposed to like big tech money? I'm curious, like your own
that's a great
perspective, because
that's
it's
a
like
great
I've heard
question.
different opinions on that, and it does get tough. Well,
Yeah,
also we like
for
we still
me,
do need energy for now. Like we can't just turn it off tomorrow, right? But
it's tough. Like they're the last people I would want to take money from.
yeah,
Um,
the moral hazard changes for them, right? Then they actually replace,
yeah,
real
and
decarbonization we do internally.
yeah, it's really tough because like that's true. We do need energy until we fully transition off of it. Um, but there's also a lot of companies out there that are not oil and gas. But it has been discussed that that could be an option. And I don't want that to take place, but it's it's a tough one
The
for
big
sure.
conversation for like climate tech companies everywhere, like even just in investment, like, obvious, I think would be like the hydrogen sector or like other like industrial adjacent
Hmm.
closer to oil and gas anyway. But yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely think that there's a fine line there in terms of like what makes sense. But
Yeah. And I saw your drill baby drill comment there. What's interesting is that um, the economics are kind of shifting to renewables. Um, and in the market, like Trump's like drill baby drill, we gotta do that. Well, these oil and gas companies, the supply is so high right now. Like there's so much oil and gas on the market that they don't really have any interest in, going up to Alaska to get more oil. We're producing record oil extraction right now. So maybe in a few years that might change, but right now the market's pointing towards like they don't really want to do that. So yeah.
and at the same time, they've also invested so much money into their innovation arms and their renewable energy, development
Hmm.
projects that they have literally been calling for Trump to not get rid of net zero targets and like to not pull out of the Paris Agreement, which obviously happened. But like, what dystopian world are we living in where oil and gas is like, no, no, we need these because we've invested so much for our ROI to actually
Right.
Yeah, they'll take their subsidies any format it comes in. They're not picky.
Hmm.
like, no, no, this is what we're doing now.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's an interesting world we live in, interesting space,
And
especially
there
on the
are, yeah,
sustainability.
other awesome companies are investing in buying carbon credits that are doing really good work. So I think to your point,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
gas carbon buyers that have equal similar emissions. So awesome. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time, Noel. You've already been so generous. Thank you so much for creating these awesome slides and just for spending your evening with us. We appreciate it so much.
Totally.
Yeah, excited to share this recording with our community more broadly so we can get, reach even more students with all your cool insights. But yeah, if anybody else has any final parting words, feel free to unmute, say thank you, say bye. But also, if you have any questions for us, we're always available to you. Yeah, thank you guys for joining and have a good night.